are the Media Action Center of Wisconsin, and we're here today to discuss the Scott Walker Recall Talk Radio Monitoring Project. Now, what we've found is that Milwaukee's two conservative talk radio stations, WISN and WTMJ, are not complying with current FCC law. Now, first off, I want to be very clear. We're not talking about the Fairness Doctrine. We're fully aware that the Fairness Doctrine is no longer applicable, and we're not trying to reinstate it. Also, we have no intention of silencing conservative talk or censoring these radio stations. We just want them to comply with current FCC law. They are free to be as partisan as they wish and as one-sided as they wish throughout the year. However, during the 60 days immediately preceding an election, they're required by law, if they give free airtime to one candidate or their supporters, they need to also allow free airtime to the other candidate and or their supporters if requested. So right now I'd like to hand it over to Nathaniel. He will discuss the methodology of our project.
Since May 9th, the Media Action Center has been monitoring the following radio programs: Jay Weber, Vicki McKenna, and Mark Belling on WISN, and Charlie Sykes and Jeff Wagner on WTMJ. Our monitoring is focused on statements by the hosts, guests, and callers that are undeniably partisan in nature in regards to the June 5th recall elections. We've counted the minutes devoted to either praising or criticizing the recall candidates, as well as both major political parties. Through our research, we have found that Governor Scott Walker and the Republican Party of Wisconsin have received an average of 88 minutes of airtime every day on WTMJ and 80 minutes per day on WISN. Much of this time has been given to supporters of Governor Walker, Lieutenant Governor Kleefisch, and the recalled state senators. Governor Walker himself has been a guest on 6 programs that were monitored. Republican officials, including Lieutenant Governor Kleefisch, Senator Wangard, Representative Voss, Senator Johnson, and Brian Schimming, the first vice chair of the Wisconsin Republican Party, have all been guests on the monitored shows as well. During the dates that we monitored, no officials or elected representatives of the Democratic Party have appeared on any of the programming. Citizen supporters of Mayor Barrett have been denied the opportunity to speak on the radio programs as well. We calculated that over 10 days, WTMJ had only a mere 13 minutes of pro-Democrat messaging, and WISN aired only a mere 25 seconds of pro-Barrett messaging. It should be emphasized that this is a running total over 10 days and not a daily average. This means that Governor Walker and the fellow Republicans have received over 120 times the airtime that Mayor Barrett and the Democratic Party have received on these two stations combined. To understand what these numbers mean, however, we must look at the price tag of airtime on these shows. While it is difficult to place an exact price tag on this airtime, as advertising costs fluctuate and can vary across different advertisers, we have inspected public files of WISN and WTMJ. We've concluded that the average cost of one advertising spot on these programs is between $100 and $200. We've extrapolated this data and estimated that the net worth of airtime given to Governor Walker and the Republican Party is between $16,000 and $32,000 per day on WISN, and between $17,000 and $34,000 per day on WTMJ. Therefore, over a 10-day span, Governor Walker and the Wisconsin Republican Party have been given between $330,000 and $660,000 worth of free airtime since May 8th on these 5 programs. Back to Andrew.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Right now, I'd like to turn it over to Mitch. He's going to talk about the law and the FCC rules that are in play here. Can you speak up? Yes, right now I'm going to hand it over to Mitch. He's going to talk about the FCC rules and how they apply here.
Hi, everyone. The Zappel Doctrine, also known as the Quasi-Equal Opportunities Rule, applies to these broadcasts. This is not the Fairness Doctrine. Section 315A of the Communications Act imposes the equal opportunities on radio stations within 60 days prior to an election. It states, quote, "If any licensee shall permit any person who is a legally qualified candidate for any public office to use a broadcasting station, he shall afford equal opportunities to all other such candidates for that office in the use of such broadcasting." This law was expanded in 1970 in Nicholas Zappel versus FCC to require comparable time to supporters of major party candidates. Known as the quasi-equal opportunities rule, this applies only to supporters of major party candidates. If one side has received free airtime, the FCC Zappel doctrine requires the other side to receive fair airtime as well. These are FCC rules as stated within the Wisconsin Broadcasting Association's Political Broadcasting Manual, which is given to all Wisconsin radio and TV stations. Thanks.
Thank you, Mitch. Now, there are exemptions. Section 315A of the Communications Act says that if a program is a bona fide news show, they don't have to comply with equal opportunities. The FCC has clear rules against news distortion, so any program which is distorting facts in any way cannot be considered bona fide news, and our monitoring team has found numerous examples of news distortion in all 5 of the programs we've monitored. In addition, the FCC says the programs must be nonpartisan and may not support any candidates if they are to qualify as bona fide news. We have identified many examples of partisanship on all the programs and have documented that at least 3 of the shows are using the publicly owned radio airwaves to recruit volunteers for Walker and other GOP candidates. Therefore, the quasi-equal opportunities rule does apply, and WISN and WTMJ must provide comparable time now through the end of the election. In order for the quasi-equal opportunities doctrine to be triggered, supporters of candidates must request comparable time from the station within 7 days of an imbalanced broadcast, and we've done that. Several Tom Barrett supporters have complied with this rule. They've written both stations. WTMJ has written them back, denying them time. WISN has not even responded to the dozens of requests sent to them. So now we'd like to hear from some Barrett supporters who have made these requests, and we're going to start with Randy Bryce.
We're now at the midpoint into this election cycle. We've listened to WISN radio and WTMJ radio give away tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of free airtime to Scott Walker supporters. I've received replies to respectful emails that I've sent to WTMJ, but not a word from Clear Channel. Their lack of response spoke louder than the denial for equal time that I received from WTMJ. For far too long, the people of this city have been subjected to a one-sided diatribe without any hope of having all opinions heard. During an election period, it is imperative that all sides be afforded a level playing field whenever possible. Scott Walker has been given free advertising, even though he has raised millions more than Tom Barrett for mostly out-of-state donors at a ratio of 25-1. Free time on federal airwaves during a pivotal election is not fair. Not only is it unfair, but it's against the law. Just as the people of Wisconsin have had to do time and time again in recent history, we've had to stand up in order to call attention to an injustice. That is why we stand here today. This isn't going on only in Wisconsin, but across the entire United States. As the rest of the U.S. is watching what goes on in Wisconsin, know this. All that we demand is for our voice, the voice of we the people, to be heard. We will use every peaceful means to do so, and we encourage others across the country to follow suit and demand their rights. It's time to stand up for those who would monopolize the public airwaves and demand that they follow the law. In standing up for our rights, we are hereby demanding that WISN and WTMJ immediately give Tom Barrett supporters comparable radio time before the end of this campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. And lastly, we're going to hear from another person who's written both stations requesting equal time. This is Rick Lurchie.
Good morning. As a Tom Barrett supporter for governor in the recall election on June 5th, I'm glad to have this opportunity to speak out for fairness in broadcasting in Milwaukee. I'm glad we have made the Federal Communications Commission aware of the unfairness in broadcasting in this historical recall election and are making an urgent complaint to them to rectify this situation immediately before time runs out in the campaign. The FCC is, after all, the law enforcement agency in broadcasting. We only have 14 days left until the election, so we are counting on the FCC to protect the public interest as they are sworn to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. That's it. We are going to see now if the stations comply. Sue Wilson is in the process of completing a full report that should be available on the MediaActionCenter.net website. That's there's no "the" in there. It's MediaActionCenter.net. That should be available within an hour or two, and we'll see if the stations comply. If they don't comply, then we'll have to take further action. Sue Wilson, the founder of Media Action Center, is a lawyer and journalist with over 25 years experience with FCC law. And any further questions can be directed to her. She was unable to make it today due to medical conditions, but I have her contact information for anyone who would like it. And that should do it. Thank you all for coming out today.